Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
I'm Brian. Hi, David. How you doing there, bucko?
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
I'm okay.
We're talking about House of Dragon, or House of the Dragon this time. We're back. We're continuing our podcast adventures and watching TV shows and movies and
sometimes
older stuff. You know, the different stuff. So, House of the Dragon, David.
Or, you know, Dragon House for those who are simple.
Dragon House?
Yeah, Dragon House. Dragon House Season 2. It's like
every time I see
it's like Full House, but with dragons. Anytime
I see dragon now, I just think of like dragging your nuts across your face. That's all. That's I always see that now. Every time I see dragon now, it's just
Wow.
Oh man.
Not even 2 minutes in, and Brian's talking about his nuts.
Well, we did season 1 for House of the Dragon, and I think we both planned on seeing season 2. So now we're here for season 2. We didn't have to. Nobody held a gun to our head to watch this. We watched this willingly.
Although we'll be holding a gun to our own head when we start watching Rings of Power season 2.
I might not make it through that.
Yeah, if the podcast if this is the last episode, it's probably why Rings of Power ended us.
Listen, I am here to hate watch. I'm doing nothing else but hate watching that show. I don't actually think I like it or anything. I don't know what the reviews are or anything, but based on the first season, I'm assuming the second season ain't gonna be too good either. But we'll get there.
And David. It was filmed during a writer's strike. Writer's strikes notoriously, like anything that was filmed during a writer's strike is usually worse.
It's the best stuff. It's the best stuff. We gotta change our mindset. It's going to be a 10 out of 10 show. It's going to be the greatest show we've ever seen. The rebound from season 1 to season 2 is going to be unlike. It's going to be talked about in history books. Nothing will be like this. It'll be the greatest show ever. I'm going into the 10 out of 10 strategy right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
So I actually did research this time. I went because it's been 2 years since the first season came out.
It's been 2 years?
It was 2022 when the first season came out.
Really? It's been that long?
So
man, and I still ended up picking the same background.
So the thing that drives me nuts is seasons of TV are shorter now than ever, but they take longer to come out. Star Trek The Next Generation came out on a yearly basis, and those were 20-something episodes long per season, like 22 to 27, depending on the season. Yeah, but
it's the production. It's the production cost is significantly different.
Yeah.
And things take more time when the production's higher because there's more people, more things to do, more computers needed, more, artists. Stuff like that. I'm sure that's why. I mean, it's got to be why.
Yes and no, but this season, I mean, we'll get into it, but this season felt like they were trying to push the war out as far as they possibly could. And
what do you mean push the war out?
Well,
to like the next season?
Yeah.
oh, like a stall. Like they're stalling.
Yeah, like they were stalling. Because like the entire first season was a stall, and this season was mostly a stall. We had a battle, which was kind of nice, but then this season also felt like a stall. Because like the finale of season 1 was like, oh, stuff's gonna go down.
It's happening. It's happening.
And then it's like
another season finale for this one is like it's happening. It's happening.
The whole season is like it's happening, and it's like no.
So David, you rated this one a 9 for season 1. You did research. Yeah. You let me know the research you found, David. It was a 9 season 1. What are you giving for season 2?
Season 2, it's dropping some points, baby.
It's dropping points.
Dropping point. We are dropping points hard. We're gonna go down to like a 6.5 or 7 for season 2. I think.
What is it? 6.5 or 7? You can't. It's got to be one. You can't. There's no wishy-washy here. You got to give us a solid answer.
Let's go down to 6.5. We're gonna give it a good solid 6.5 for this season. Maybe I like season 1 a lot because I was hot off the heels of Rings of Power, and Rings of Power was such a terrible show from every point of view it possibly could be, and House the Dragon was just a breath of fresh air in comparison. So maybe I was riding high on not having to watch Rings of Power.
Well, it was a good. I didn't like it as much, but it was a good show. It's not like it was. It wasn't bad.
It was a good setup. It was a good introductory season, getting the stuff set up, and this season just the first 3 episodes was like House of the Ambien. I was bored. The first 3 episodes. Episode 4, we get like our one battle, and then it's like back to talking.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6.5. It definitely fell from grace. Maybe we should have waited, and I should have watched Rings of Power season 2, and maybe this would have been like a 7 or an 8 in comparison. But yeah, no. This season was not as good as season 1 for me personally. How about you, Brian?
David, I'm conflicted, man. I'm conflicted here. I thought about, like, when I was, just for jokes, I was thinking about writing like this speech about why I should do this like a 10 out of 10. But then don't give it a 10 out of 10. Just like have this like super inspirational speech, like, what does it mean to hold power? But I didn't do that. I am conflicted because objectively, the show is not as good as season 1. However, I enjoyed this season more than I enjoyed season 1. So I'm having a hard time picking a rating here. But
what?
Season 1, I wasn't invested. I understood why it could be a good show, and it looked nice. The story was fun. I understand why it was a good show, but I just didn't care.
I think your exact quote was, the acting is good, the writing is good, the special effects are good, but I just don't care about any of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt about season 1. However, for season 2, the story or the writing is not as good, but everything else is still good. But now I care about the characters more. So I'm conflicted on what to give it. You said I gave it a 7, but I think
you gave season 1 a 7. Yes.
Yes. Objectively, it is not as good as season 1. It's just not.
Okay.
So I'm also going to give it. I'm going to give it a 6.8.
Okay.
I have to give it lower, even though I liked it more. I need to preface that. There's an asterisk here. I liked this season more than I liked season 1. But now we're going to have to get into, why did you like it more?
So you give it a 7.1?
No, because it's not as good as season 1. I can't give it a higher rating than the show I said I didn't like last year when I like it more now. Do you see where I'm going? Is it confusing? I got caught up in a like confusing circle here is what's happened to me.
Yeah,
that's what's happened.
It's confusing to me, Brian. Lay it out. I don't. What's your?
I will say, the first season, as we all know, I'm not the greatest with names.
Good God.
This season, I'm starting to like understand the characters. I know that's Rhaenyra and Alicent on your screen now. Last year, I don't think I could have told you that. But now I don't know what the dragon is behind me. They got names too, but I don't know any of the dragon names. They got the weird names. I don't know. But I don't know. For this season, like for the first 3 episodes, it was boring. I didn't care about the first 3 episodes. I was going into this thinking for the first 3 episodes, oh my God, it's just they're going from scene to scene and they're in one room and they're talking. That was it. And then episode 4 happened.
Yeah, episode 4 is when it got good. It was like, okay, that was good.
That battle that was in there, I was like, okay, that was a cool fight. I'd never seen a dragon bite another dragon's neck before.
Now we saw a dragon just eat the other dragon at the end of season 1, though.
Yeah, but I didn't care. Well, I mean, that dragon kind of does that again.
Season 1.
What's the name? That's the big dragon, right? That dragon. We talked about this a little bit. That the dragon that Aemon rides. That one is the biggest dragon in all of the lands. I don't know how old that dragon is, or how old dragons live for, because they said it was around when Aegon the Conqueror was still around, which is like when the Targaryens started. I don't know how long ago they started. I don't know like when in the family trees and anything. If you know anything about George R. R. Martin or Martin, whatever the heck his name is, his family trees are confusing. But that dragon is supposedly old, so they get stronger with time. He's that dragons. All the dragons die at some point, but I'm just on a whole tangent of saying that I enjoyed this season more than last season, but this season is worse than the first season. You know, if you could wrap that up. The Rhaenyra, the problem I have with Rhaenyra, I don't really care about her as a character because the young Rhaenyra did such a better job. She was amazing. She
was such a good actress. I mean, they should have just put old age makeup on the little itty bitty girl. I don't know, but she was such a good actor.
I don't know how old she was. She looked really young in the first season. I don't know how old she was.
I mean,
if she was like 15 or whatever, I mean, she did a fantastic job.
Well, we saw her in like a flashback in this season,
with Damon, briefly,
and that was cool. But she looked exactly the same, so she hasn't like her.
Yeah, well, who knows when they filmed that though?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe she's totally different. I think the problem I have with new Rhaenyra or older Rhaenyra is that like she doesn't have like that confidence. Like every time she's like saying an order, she always looks like she's a little bit unsure of what she's doing. Like there's a point towards the end of the season where she wants more dragon riders, and she needs to go find a bunch of Targaryen people, or I don't know, like when the Targaryens go to like a strip club.
They're bastards.
When
not the strip club. They gotta go to the brothel.
Yeah, you have to go to the brothel and find a bunch of Targaryen bastards from the kings and princes and all that have gone there, because she needs more dragon riders because she has extra dragons. When she's given like a speech to them there was like 20 or 30 of them there of like who's gonna be the next two dragon riders. Her face just kind of like, it was like, I don't know, it felt like her eye was twitching a little bit. She just didn't have like super confidence as like young Rhaenyra, where she felt like she was like cutthroat.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just the difference in the actors for sure. Like the young Rhaenyra is still like so good, and I said 2 years ago I was like I want to follow her career. I don't know if she's done anything because she's so good. But I mean,
you're not following her career.
I haven't. Followed
What's up, man? What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm trying not to be a stalker.
I'm sure she'll show up in something again.
Hopefully, because she's a really good actor. She is so good, and it's just sad because the young Alicent and the old Alicent, I thought they did a really good job. I thought they were on par with each other.
She's a solid character. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, I thought she did good, but yeah,
she progressively goes from in this season. She goes from kind of knowing her place of what she is and who she is towards literally the last episode where she's just like lost and she doesn't know what to do. So she's had quite a bit of character development this season. I'm not sure what her place is going to be in season 3. I thought she was going to die. I thought when she went to visit Rhaenyra at the end of this, I thought she was going to die because she doesn't really have a place anymore. Both her sons kicked her out of her council. Her dad, I think that's her dad, right? That got kicked out the King's Hand. That's her dad, who also got kicked out. So she doesn't really have anything to do anymore. I don't know what they're going to do with her. I thought killing her would kind of be, a Game of Thronesy type of thing to do.
There's also it also looked like she's going to just, unalive herself several times because you see her get in the water and the music is
just like floating with this sad music.
And then it's just like, oh, is she going to not come back from this? And it's like, no. And then she kicks out all the servants when she goes to take a bath, and you think it's gonna happen then. It's like, no.
Yeah.
The whole thing, it's like, is she gonna do it? And it's like, no, she didn't do it. It's a strange.
Maybe they were trying to figure out what to do with her. I don't know how close. I know this show follows a book. I haven't read that book. I don't even know it's Fire Blood or something. Yeah, I don't know how closely they're following the book. I don't know what happens in the book.
Not closely enough, according to George R.R. Martin, because the king, Aegon, has twins and a third child in the books. And George R.R. Martin, because the third child isn't there in the blood and cheese scene in episode 1 where they're trying to do the son for the son thing.
Yeah.
So apparently in the book, the mother, Helena, she was asked which one to kill, and then she pointed to the youngest child, so the one who wasn't the heir, kill that one. and because they didn't care, or they said they didn't care over the son. But then they just wouldn't kill the eldest son.
To preface, in the first 3 episodes, one of the twins, there's like Damon orders like 2 cronies to go kill.
Damon orders 2 cronies to go kill Eamon.
Yes, which is a baby.
No, Eamon is the one-eyed one.
Well, Eamon's the one-eyed guy, but they end up killing the baby.
The baby Jaehaerys, which is named after his grandfather. So the problem with this show is, the entire problem with the show is that
all the names are the same.
All the names are the same, and that's not our problem with the show. That's all the characters in the show's problem with the show. Because if people had different names, then there wouldn't be that confusion of him wanting Aemon to be on the throne.
Is this only a Targaryen thing? Because it feels like the Targaryens are all named like Aemon, Rhaenyra. It's like they're all the same type of names. There's like 4 names they cycle through.
Aegon, Dagon, Bacon.
Yeah, Bacon's one of them. Bacon's my favorite.
Sprinkle on some.
Yeah, so they aren't following the book. So may I have a hot take after you are done?
So the 3rd child doesn't die yet. It dies later on, but it causes other people to get killed, and it causes Helena to unalive herself later on. And so apparently, supposedly, George R. R. Martin found out that I mean, season 3 is still being written, so it's not set in stone, but she's still going to unalive herself, but for no reason. Because in the book, when she finds out her other son dies, that's when she does it to herself.
So it sounds like they're following the books, but kind of like loosely following it, not exactly 1-to-1.
Well, that was George R. R. Martin's big concern with this season, that not even having that child there causes a butterfly effect of things that should happen. And I guess that I guess can still happen, but they're not going to happen for as good a reason. Like it's just going to be flimsy, just kind of standard stuff. So as I heard, he had a problem with it, and so I was investigating, and that was what I found out, that he had a problem with the blood and cheese scene. Which I mean, I guess book readers did too, because they thought the scene was better in the book.
Generally, that's how it is.
Yeah, that's how it is. So that's
and forever. Books are almost always better than the adaptation. Like forever, it's always been a thing. It's not just this show type of thing.
Yeah. So you had a rant to go on?
I have a hot take, David.
Oh,
I have a hot take. Yes. I don't think it's a good idea to listen to George R. R. Martin. I don't think it's a good idea. And I'll tell you why. They're going to blow through this book. The show's going to keep going. The show's still pretty popular. What I would be worried about is I'm going to say this, it takes 3 seasons. I don't know where they are in the book. I don't know anything, but I'm just going to speculate here. Say it takes 3 seasons to go through this whole book. They end on the cliffhanger, same thing what they did with Game of Thrones, and then they're just left out to dry, and they just have to like pick up the pieces rather than forming their own type of story. I don't know if I would want to work with George R. R. Martin because he doesn't finish anything. He doesn't write anything. So they're going to go through this book, get towards the end of it, and then they're going to run out of material, and they'll just have to make it up, and they won't have George R. R. Martin to help. If they follow their own story, though, and they kind of twist it a little bit how they want, they can plan for the future, when if they just follow the book, they can't plan anymore.
From what I understand, Blood and Fire is a history of the Targaryens in general. So I mean, I think it's a one and done book. I don't think it's a series.
So you think when they get to the end of whatever this history of the book or whatever, you think the show will just end, or do you think I guess there's no way to know.
I guess.
But that would be my worry, because what happened in Game of Thrones. As soon as they got to the end of the book, George R. R. Martin came out with no more material, and then the show just started falling apart. So I would be worried that the same would be happening for this show as well. They'll get to the end of the book or whatever, and then they'll run out of material.
Well, to be fair, Game of Thrones could have been another 3 seasons with the material George R. R. Martin had made. I mean, they could have had an entire season of just Tyrion going on adventures, because he's like on a boat for like half of one of the books, half of one of the longest books. So I mean, they could have just had a season of him doing stuff, which people would have probably loved, because he's.
I don't think anybody would have. I mean, I would have been nice to check in with the other characters throughout the season, but if you want to just focus on Tyrion, everybody liked Tyrion. So
Tyrion was a fan favorite character. He was one of my favorite characters.
He was yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of favorite characters, this show, I don't really like anybody, and my favorite character dies in episode 4.
The
ant.
The ant? That was your favorite character?
Yeah, she's my favorite character in the show, and she died.
Well, man, really? That favorite character, huh? Okay. I respect it, man. If you like her, you like her.
I mean, there's not much to pick from. I don't really like anyone. I loved young Rhaenyra, but old Rhaenyra is boring.
Yeah, she doesn't have. She just. I don't want to go back to it again, but she just doesn't have like the power, like the presence on screen.
Yeah,
that's my problem with her. I mean, I don't particularly have a favorite character either, but if I had to pick, Daemon is definitely my favorite.
Daemon's probably my third favorite character. Like, I didn't like Otto Hightower in season 1. I thought he was like a terrible, awful person. But when he's getting kicked out, and like when he's just like being so mad, when he's being so mad about the children being so stupid, like I laughed out loud. Like he earned points for being funny, because like you don't usually laugh when you're watching Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, but like I laughed out loud when he was like dressing the kids down.
Yeah,
for being stupid and rash, and I was like, oh man, he's earning points. And then they sent him away, and then we don't really see him again except in a cage in the last episode. It's like, oh, okay.
That means he's going to be coming back. Maybe him and Alicent will team up and they'll do something cool, because they're both fine characters. I don't got a problem with either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but not having a problem with him doesn't elevate them to status of favorite. Like, I don't know. I thought.
Oh no! Oh, if we're still on favorite, no. Neither one of them will be my favorite.
Well, yeah. So I mean, like, Daemon has.
Daemon's going to remain my favorite until he inevitably dies.
Daemon was really cool in season 1. He
didn't do much in season 2.
He didn't do much at all in season 2. Like, he just kind of like he went to the broken castle.
He's doing soul searching. What it seems like to me is, he thinks he should be. I don't know how the whole like who should be king or queen. I think technically it should be Rhaenyra, right? Shouldn't she?
Yes,
like Jon Snow type of thing. It's like Jon Snow should have been that, sitting on the Iron Throne. I think technically Rhaenyra could also be sitting on the Iron Throne right now.
She should be, because that's what her father wanted. But because the Targaryens always named their son Aegon, there's that's where the confusion comes from, which makes it really stupid. Like, because everyone's named the same thing, it causes confusion in the show itself to the characters themselves, which is just kind of like, really? The whole thing is because people didn't realize you're talking about the old Aegon, not the new Aegon. Like, oh, come on. Yeah. Like, this whole war is over bad naming convention.
That's what they're actually fighting over. They're just fighting over the names.
Well, it's because it was a misunderstanding. Yeah, because the names are too close together.
Well, it seems to me that Daemon feels like he kind of got cheaped out, where he thinks he should be the next one because his brother was the king, so now his brother's dead, so now he feels like he should be, but he can't be because the actual king named Rhaenyra, so he can't. So now it feels like he had to go on like his own self adventure to learn to be okay with him not being the next king or heir or whatever you want to call it. That's what it seems like his whole season is.
Well, he had that arc, but that wasn't his goal. He was going to raise an army so he could take it himself. And And then in the last episode, he has like a
change of heart.
He trips on acid at the Godswood and sees the vision of Daenerys with the.
Oh, they showed White Walkers too.
And they showed White Walkers.
How about that? Those are cool.
Yeah. Hey, remember the White Walkers?
Remember those?
Remember those? They're coming. But the whole
300 years.
But the thing is, I think also what hurts the show is that the last 2 seasons.
That you're still pissed off about the last season of Game of Thrones.
The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones were so bad. Like
that's what it did, man. When just on a side note, when they showed the White Walkers, man, it brought me like I was like angry. I was like, man, they were so cool. They just ruined them.
They ruined them. They ruined Daenerys. Like the whole thing about Daenerys becoming queen and like the vision where they see her with the dragons is like, why didn't they just show Jon? Oh, you
just like malfunctioned.
Well, because the Targaryens don't even matter. Like the whole thing is supposed to be about the Targaryens, and then they don't even matter because Jon Snow in the show goes back to the Wall, and Daenerys gets killed. Okay, so like, what's the point? Like, what's the point? Like, it's
there was never a point. That was the that we're okay. We'll just go on forever with Game of Thrones.
But that's what kind of kills the show because it's just like, oh, okay, we're getting the history of the Targaryens, and like, okay, it's kind of interesting, and then we get the White Walkers, then we see Daenerys from the back with her 3 dragons when she burned herself in the fire and was fine. Yeah, remember that? Here's her butt.
Yeah, pretty much.
It just hurts because I mean, like, if there was a payoff for her character other than just getting killed by Jon Snow for no reason because she was going mad because she like went insane for no reason at the end of the show, it was like,
yeah.
I mean,
the argument is that I'm sure the showrunners would say it's like, oh no, there were signs she was gonna do this. Remember that one sentence she said that one time in that one episode for 3 seconds? She said she was gonna go crazy.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it does suck. It is weird that they showed that. I feel like they should try to just kind of like push that stuff away. I don't know how far away we are from the events of Game of Thrones. Probably what are we, like 200 years, probably something like that. 150. That's what it feels like.
I don't know.
Guessing. But yeah, they should just leave that stuff out. Just focus on the Targaryens because I think the Targaryens are kind of cool. I wish they would go more east.
I wish they would go more into the lore of dragons. Like,
yeah, which is east. You need to go east. That's where the dragons come from.
Because, I mean, if we got why the dragon... I mean, they kind of went into a little bit. They kind of choose their rider. They kill everyone else, and they'll choose someone. But why?
Why?
Why are they want to be slaves to a person? Like... Because in normal fantasy, dragons have their own agency. They want gold. They are more intelligent than they seem to be in the show. I mean, like, It's cool that like people can ride the dragons, but like
it's like they're big dogs.
Yeah, but with all the talking in this show, it's like I would love more in depth about that, like that kind of stuff. And then they get like these like weird. Like, it was in the 2nd or 3rd episode where like they had this like weird like long camera shot of Rhaenyra and one eye was in focus, and then they do the thing where like they shift focus, but it didn't shift focus to behind her, it just shifted focus to her other eye. I'm like, why?
They're doing some fancy stuff.
Why would you do that?
They're trying to be fancy.
Well, no, I mean, if you shift focus, you should shift focus to like something else, not just her other eye. It was really jarring shift of focus, and I'm like, why did you shift focus from one eye to the other? I don't know. I mean, like, you know, if you usually do like that to, you know, foreground to background or background to foreground, but it was eyeball to eyeball. And I'm like, okay, that was weird. There's just a lot. Like most of these just another problem with this season for me is that, like, you know, I like it when you can make seasons long, but these episodes were needlessly long. I think
they're just talking. Like long drawn out scenes
or just long drawn out scenes of nothing, like her eyeball, like that was like 15-20 seconds, and there's so many scenes of just like walking through halls and close-ups of people not talking. And
what is it's a slow-paced show, so when like the fast-paced stuff happens, it really feels like it's like something's happening. That Game of Thrones did the same thing, where it's like you have these like it's the blood wedding or whatever. It was all like calm and everything until it just was not calm anymore. Which is why I think a lot of people are just like, oh my gosh. When with a lot of TV shows and movies we see, it's kind of just like a giant wars going on, so it feels like everything needs to be 10 out of 10. But what Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon do is like it's a 1 out of 10 until it's just randomly a 10 out of 10. So then you're really like, whoa.
Yeah, but even the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones, there's a lot of talking, but like it was like
there was a little bit more action for sure.
It was going somewhere.
Yeah, it was always
this
going
show
somewhere.
Doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere. Like season 1 was establishing characters, that's fine. You have a slow first season, you establish who the new characters are, fine. But the entire season, we're like putting to war. And then at the end of season 1, it's like, oh, the war is breaking out for sure next season. Oh yeah, and then it's like the entire season. The entire season is the loop, and then this season kind of ends in like a whimper because they're just like they're just gathering up. They're just gathering up all these forces. All the different sides have an army now. So then the first episode of next season will be like, well, we're gonna put the kibosh. I don't know. It just kind of feels like they're gonna do that because I mean, we had the build. I think they have to. We had the build up at the end of season 1, and then they just dropped it at the beginning of season 2. Like it didn't really escalate the way you thought it was. And so at season 2, we've got this escalation to like, oh, the people are finally have their troops. They finally got the troops together. And then I feel like the beginning of next season isn't really. There's going to be something that like causes it to stop, and then we won't have like our actual battle till like mid-season. I
think they might even delay it even more.
I mean, they could.
Because right now, Rhaenyra, at least unless they do some like Ex Machina stuff and just make the other side stronger, Rhaenyra's side is significantly stronger, like infinitely stronger. All they have is Aemon and his giant dragon. That's it. And in the last episode, you see Aemon flying towards Rhaenyra, and he flies away because he has to respect all those dragons, and that's when Daemon wasn't even there.
Well, but then there's also the Lannister guy who had a mud wrestling match with some lady.
Yeah, that felt like they were going more east. I was starting to get interested in that because it felt like there was like palm trees and stuff, and that's where like Khal Drogo and all that were from.
Yeah,
it felt like more of that like area. So I thought, oh, maybe we're going over east, and then they say like Lannister, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was the Lannister guy. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that whole scene was weird.
The mud wrestling one. Well, I think they're just developing. They're still just developing characters.
Everything around that scene, like the initial scene where they had to talk, the mud wrestling scene was weird. The dinner after was weird. It was.
Yeah, I don't really know where that's going to lead to, but we'll see.
It's just like we've never seen him except in the council room. Like like he's just one of the guys that sits around the king's table when they're having their meetings, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Here, we're gonna go hang out with him." Like, why? How did he become a character all of a sudden?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I will say that there's many times during this season where I thought like, why are the Targaryens always the ones that should be on the Iron Throne? And then I remember it's like, oh wait, they're the ones that are the strongest because they have the dragons. Because it feels like none of the other houses even matter. It's like that, which is, I guess, it's just how it was written. But it feels like they show the Winterfell banners and it's like, oh, that's a cool callback to like Game of Thrones or whatever. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's like the Targaryens are always going to be the ones that are going to win. They can't match a dragon.
I just wish George R.R. Martin would write like a solid outline for what the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones should be, and then just let them redo them, please.
That absolutely is not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen, but I mean, like, I want it to happen so like House of the Dragon doesn't feel so pointless.
Yeah, well,
because the fact that Daenerys dies and Jon Snow goes back to the Wall, like none of it matters.
The whole show made it so nothing matters.
Yeah, it just
White Walkers are gone. The Jon Snow's he was probably the most favorite character in the whole show. Yeah, his entire arc does not matter at all. The Winterfell, the Starks don't matter. Nothing in that show ended up mattering at all, which sucks. It just sucks.
And then a guy who doesn't know what's happening right in front of him is made king for no reason.
Oh yeah, I even forgot about that. That's crazy.
It's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's so bad.
I wish Jon Snow should he didn't want to. They made it so he didn't want to at the end. Anyway, it didn't even matter.
Like Jon Snow and Daenerys should have been co-king and queen. Like that would have been.
But they needed more seasons to do that because actually I would have been even fine even if they didn't become. Man, we're really getting off track. But yeah, I would have been fine even if if Jon Snow didn't become king and he just died fighting the White Walkers.
Sure.
And the White Walkers pretty much took over and Daenerys was the only thing that could save him or whatever. I would have been fine with that. But you needed like 3 or 4 more seasons to do that.
And Daenerys, you know, like maybe Daenerys and Jon Snow had a kid, and that's you know, like he was able to break her Baron curse or whatever because he came back from the dead, or you know, whatever. I just wish I just wish the White Walkers paid off. I wish they were as scary, and they ended up being as scary as they were led up to be for 7 seasons. Well,
and
they're trying to lead up to it again with this show.
Yeah, I know they're leading up to Game of Thrones now.
It's just like it doesn't matter. Like that's why
they even say the line. They say Daemon says the line in the last episode. Winter's coming.
It's just like. Like
that's not the threat.
All of the threat is the writers of season 6 and season 7. That's the real threat. D&D are coming.
That's the threat. No, they got fired. They can't do it anymore. Didn't they get fired from Game of Thrones because they wanted to go do Star Wars or something? And Star Wars fired them or something?
No, they rushed out season 6 and 7 of Game of Thrones and made it absolute trash because they were offered Star Wars. A trilogy of Star Wars films because Game of Thrones was so popular, but then since they tanked Game of Thrones so bad, Disney decided to unhire them because the last seasons are.
That's crazy. It's crazy to me that HBO let those two have that level of power over the show. They're just because I think HBO, George R. R. Martin, all the like higher ups, I feel like I remember reading articles where they're like, no, we want more seasons, and then the 2 showrunners were like, no, we're only getting 1 more. It's like, man, you have everybody except the 2 showrunners saying what they want more, and you have enough power to say no. I don't know.
I don't
know how it works.
It was insane. Like, and that's why I'm saying the show's ending needs to be redone and unmessed up, so that House of the Dragon future seasons can feel like they matter. Because the way Game of Thrones ends, I mean,
the way this show's probably going to end is all the dragons are going to die. I don't know how, or maybe they'll fly off on their own and their riders will die or something. But all of them have to die. That's really the only thing that has to happen.
Only if we're going up to when Jon Baratheon, because I think Jon Baratheon killed.
Yeah, but how far is? I don't know how far. I don't know when that is.
I don't know how many years it is between Rhaenyra and.
Maybe it's I mean, I don't know. Never mind. I take that back. I still think all the dragons will die. I think Aemon and his big dragon will die, because that's like the big powerhouse threat. Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like will die. And a side note, I've only read the first Game of Thrones book, and I was going to start reading all of them, but then I got like George R. R. Martin years ago, like was taking too long to write a book, and I didn't feel confident he was going to finish it, so I never read the second book. So like, while I do want to read all the books, I just don't want to read all these books and then be let down again that they'll never be finished. I haven't read them, but I'd be willing. I want, if they ever finish them, I'll be first in line to read them all.
I would do that. I would. Until you know he's gonna finish them or not, don't get invested, because the books are so good. But he keeps.
I don't know. I feel like it still watches.
He keeps
writing. It's like recommending Game of Thrones to watch or not is like it's. I don't know. It's like it's still one of my favorite shows. Like the first couple seasons, that's some of the greatest TV that's ever happened.
It was so good. And another strike against this show, not as horny as early Game of Thrones.
I feel like that's a lot of shows, though. I'm starting to have this is another. I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory or not, but it feels like a lot of shows that I watch nowadays. There used to be, man. I'm gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
You're gonna sound like me.
Yeah, I'm gonna sound like you. There used to be a lot of more, or not a lot, but like more female nudity in shows, which I prefer. But it seems like now it's not so much female nudity, it's male nudity. And it's like every time they show it, it's like, I don't want. Is that how girls feel when they see girls on screen? I don't know, man. I don't know. It freaks me out. I don't like it. I don't like that. Anyway, that's my take. I don't know why there's like, I don't need it. I know you want nudity. I don't need it for a show to be good for me or whatever. It doesn't impact me negatively or positively. But if I'm going to have nudity, I'd rather have female nudity than male nudity.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, that's that's part of what sold Game of Thrones when it was being boring. And even when it was boring, I mean, there were still, because they were condensing super thick books into 10 episodes or less for Game of Thrones, things were happening because they happened in the book. So, but I mean, the horniness also elevated it some too, and it was very violent. It kind of had it all. It had like good characters, good story. It was horny. It was violent. It had kind of everything.
The only thing it had going for it, if you didn't like, was fantasy. And if you don't like fantasy, you won't like the show. Yeah, but even people that don't like it's
not even high fantasy. It's
not. The dragons show up every once in a while, but there's people that I know in my life that don't like fantasy or don't like that type of thing, but they watched Game of Thrones and enjoyed it. So I don't know, maybe.
Well, because everybody enjoyed it up to a certain point. It's not high fantasy though. It's just.
Well, it's old, you know, that vibe. It's got that vibe. It's got that fantasy. I mean, it definitely is fantasy. It's just not crazy fantasy.
It's not high fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons or like, you know, it doesn't have like a
fantasy.
Magic,
it's low fantasy.
Yeah, it's low, like whatever that term is for like low fantasy light. Yeah.
Yeah. So David, are you going to? For me, I'm watching season 3. I'm still invested in the show. I'm still watching season 3. It's not as good as Game of Thrones, but still compared to all TV shows that are out nowadays that are fantasy based or low fantasy, this is still the best one. That's my take. Would I recommend it? Yes. Do I have recommendations to make the show better? Yes. Go east and explain what's going on with these dragons. I don't really care too much about the characters. I wish Daemon was more involved. I think he's the most like wild card character where he might cause some chaos, and I like that kind of stuff. But you, David, would you recommend it? What do you want to improve for the next season?
Pacing. Show needs better pacing. Show needs to I don't know, make me care about any of these characters. It's also the prequelitis thing. They need to retcon Game of Thrones so the show matters, because the way Game of Thrones end makes the show not matter for me.
Anything that's a prequel generally doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
that's the problem with prequels. It's like you know where it's going.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit, especially with the way Game of Thrones end. If Game of Thrones had a great ending, I would probably be more invested in the show, even though it's a prequel. But Game of Thrones ending just hurts the concept of the show so much.
You see they're making it. You see there's another show. Yeah. They just finished.
Yes.
They're filming or not. I just saw a screenshot. I don't know. You could tell me the name of it. I still wouldn't know if you're right or not. But I saw that there is another show coming.
Yeah, it's like a night in Westeros or something.
I will say I'm still invested. I still want to watch it. I still like Westeros stuff, man. I'm still a fan of it. Game of Thrones sucked at the end, but it's still good quality TV. It's not it's not a lot of the stuff where we watch or comes out nowadays. It's just it's guaranteed to already be a 5 out of 10. Game of Thrones at least is okay, it's good, probably going to be okay at least. The worst case scenario is the show's okay, it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this season was just mid. I mean, I'll watch the next season just to to podcast on it and to keep it going with you, but. Am I excited for next season? Not really.
No, I'm not particularly excited for it.
I mean, it's kind of like the Boys season 4. I wasn't excited for Boys season 4. Then it arrived. I'm like, oh, okay, this was actually pretty good. So maybe they'll turn things around next season.
That's a very insightful thing. But for the Boys, you and I didn't care about the Boys until we watched the Boys.
Yeah, like season 3 was a low point, and then season 4 was oh, this is actually pretty good now. And to me, this is I mean, we're in the nosedive. Maybe we could pull up, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, they need this war. This war needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need
this war needs to start. Season 3, episode 1, and be half the season.
Yeah, I want to be I want to be wowed like I was in Game of Thrones, and nothing in this show really wowed me. So
season 4 or episode 4 was good though.
Episode 4 was
the best episode.
It was the best episode of the season for sure.
That after watching that episode, I thought I was like, man, maybe we're switching here. This might be a 10 out of 10 season. I really liked episode 4.
Yeah, episode 4 was very good. But
Well,
I'm having a hard time caring. For me, the best fantasy show is Wheel of Time season. I know you haven't watched season 2 yet.
No,
but season 2, maybe we'll talk about it once Brian watches it. But season 2 for me was a way more watchable season of television. But it is not close to. It is not.
It sounds like you're trying. You're trying.
It is not close to the books, and its production value isn't nearly as nice as House of the Dragon.
Well, it's going to be impossible. I think, realistically speaking, the amount of money that this franchise has it's gonna be impossible for anything to match.
But the thing is, like, Wheel of Time needs that budget, whereas this season of House of the Dragon.
You got to earn that budget, though.
Where did it go?
You got to earn it.
I understand that, but like it feels like with all the money and how expensive the House of the Dragon is, like, where did the money go? Like, we had like a couple cool shots of dragons and, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of CGI and all the exteriors and whatnot, but it's just kind of like.
Besides, there are some questionable CGI shots. Like, for instance, when they're riding the dragons, it looks a little weird. But like when they're just like going around castles and stuff, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 for on looks. In set production sets, with the castles and stuff. I know they're all real castles and they film on actual locations. They're not. I already know that, but it's just the way that everything looks. It just looks like it's real.
Yeah, but the thing is, with Wheel of Time being a high fantasy show, it needs that budget.
Yeah, it needs that budget to make it look like that high fantasy.
It needs the budget more than Game of Thrones does. Because
I hear you on that.
The high fantasy, you've got the magic, and you still got the locations, and in Wheel of Time, the locations are more fantastic in a way because it is high fantasy and not your standard like castles, at least in the books, you know.
Yeah, but, I hear.
But yeah,
well, that's House of the Dragon, and I guess we also like half of it was Game of Thrones because you have to talk about Game of Thrones if you're going to talk about anything Westeros related.
Probably. Yeah.
Email David at Synthaholics@yahoo.com. Did you like House of the Dragon?
Yeah, let us know.
Is anybody listening? Are you there? David, did you like it? Let's start over.
Are you still there?
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. Email David at Synthaholics@yahoo.com. Someday that'll work.
One day. Anyway, until next time, I've been Dave.
I'm Brian.
And we'll catch you next time on Synthaholics.
Bye.
Bye.